Welcome to the Power of Her podcast. I'm Dawn Sinkula, and I'm so glad that you're here. So grab your coffee or your wine, get cozy, and let's dive in. Okay, welcome to the show. I am so excited today to have Diana Burgos with us, who is an entrepreneurial expert and has been in the space for quite a while. We're going to talk all things marketing, female marketing, how to kind of break through some of the noise in the male-dominated space, and all sorts of fun stuff. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, great. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about your background. So give me a little bit of your history because it's kind of unique. You've kind of done a lot of different stuff in your career. So kind of start at the beginning and tell me how you've landed where you are right now.
Awesome. Yeah. So my story goes back a couple years ago, actually almost 10 years ago. We were a young family. I got married young, 23, had our first daughter at 24. I used to work at a normal 9 to 5. I used to be a technical designer for a denim wear company. I worked there until I had my second daughter, a couple of years after that. And then the company got shut down. So I basically was out of a job. I actually got laid off after my second pregnancy. So at that time, that's kind of when I started like thinking, okay, well, do I want to go back to a full-time job? I have the 2 girls at home. And it's when we kind of started looking for like a way to start making money from home, like an online job. The online thing had always spoken to me in some way or some form. I can't speak today. But I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I did go to school for fashion design. So at that time I started selling accessories. I would make handmade bridal accessories.
Cool.
Kind of high-end little accessories, veils, all that kind of stuff. And I started selling them at a bridal shop, and then that closed like as well. All of these little shops are starting to close during that time because all the online retailers were starting to basically boom.
Yeah.
And at that time I was like, okay, well, maybe I can start selling these things online. I had no idea how to do it. I figured out the website, and now I'm like, all right, well, how about traffic? No idea how that worked. So that's really what kind of got us started. We ended up coming across a random ad on Facebook about a workshop coming to town that would teach people how to start online businesses. So I convinced my husband. He had no idea what we were getting into, but I convinced him to come, and then we ended up joining that thing. It turned out it was a high-ticket affiliate marketing company. We were pretty young. We knew it was kind of risky, but we both have entrepreneurial spirits. We kind of both wanted to start businesses. My husband was starting a local business at the time, a cleaning business. So we took the risk. We kind of went for it. And it went well until it did. And the company actually got shut down by the FTC a couple years after. I think it was like a year in. It was like a year in. During that time, basically, I kind of understood like it wasn't as easy. So I kind of went right at things, like understand, like really studying what all the higher affiliates were doing, understanding the funnels, the emails, the whole flow of how things work. And we paid for mentorships. We started getting the business rolling. So we started actually getting sales, started getting into the leaderboard. But basically, by the time it was time to get paid out, the company got shut down. So
of course,
those payouts got held up, and we got nothing. I think we got one payout of like 20,000.
Oh man.
But we were left in like $200,000 worth of debt. Like it was awful. Like, I mean, we knew it was taking a risk, but we didn't understand how much of a risk it was until we were there.
Sure.
But we learned a ton of it. We didn't take it as from the victim mentality. We really took it for what it was and really saw that everything we learned. And we had 2 choices. I mean, either just go back to working a 9 to 5 and figure out probably not get out of bed, or just go bankrupt, or just take what we learned and start applying to what my husband was doing, which was a local business at the time. So that's what we ended up doing. I think it took me like 3 months to kind of get over everything, like go through my emotions and understand like what was happening, what we're gonna do.
I can imagine, right? And babies and all the stuff, right? That's a lot.
Yeah, it was like a scary time. We weren't sure we were gonna go bankrupt. The house was it was just a mess. But after those 3 months, like he was pretty proactive. He started basically applying everything we had learned there in terms of online marketing and just putting it into action into the small business. We used all the rest of the credit lines we had in credit cards to really get SEO going, the website going for this local company. And then within the next year, we started growing that. And actually we started seeing pretty steady growth in that company. At that time, because it did take me some time to really get back on my feet and see what I want to do next.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do the agency. Like the agency was something that I had during the year in the affiliate marketing company. It's something that kept coming back because I started getting a lot of emails from like small business owners, like asking about help with their ads, with their business growth. I had no idea about any of that. So I was always like kind of saying no to that because it wasn't in, I didn't think I could do it. I didn't go to school for business. It was just like all those like limited beliefs that were coming up.
Yeah.
But then we still had a little bit of credit on the last credit card we had. And I ended up buying Dan Henry's, I forgot what the course was.
Yeah.
One of the
One of his. Yeah.
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 So I was like, all right, well, I'll kind of learn what this is about. I ended up joining his private one-on-one coaching there, where I met one of the coaches that he's coaching. I kind of became good friends with him. He ended up leaving and started working for the Cardone Kern agency, and they were looking for media buyers at that time. I didn't even apply for it. I didn't even think I could do it because, again, like I was still kind of in shock of everything, learning things little by little. But I knew enough. I knew more than enough. Like I already knew media buying at that time because we had been doing it for the affiliate marketing company. It was really getting out of my comfort zone and just building back my confidence after what happened. But I remember I just like liked his post and that's it. And then he like messaged me saying, "Hey, you know this stuff, like we need media buyers." And then he had me send some stuff about, what I knew. He was like, "You are perfect. Like you're hired." And I was like, "Really? Like what's happening right now?"
Right.
So I was there for about a year, I think, until that closed.
Yeah.
But that was like a great opportunity for me to, because again, I was doing all of this with the intention of starting my own agency.
Sure.
I'm just the type of person that, and I think as women, we do this often, right? Like we just want to be perfect at everything. We want to perfect it.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to just, every course kept telling you like, oh, just like find a business that will let you kind of do it and learn through their money and this and that. I don't like that. Like I am very like, the stuff just didn't sit right with me. So I was like, no, I rather just find an agency I could work with, understand the business,
right,
and then get it going. So that's kind of what I did. Like that opportunity opened up so many doors. So I learned so much. I was a media buyer, became the team lead within the year. I also did account management for some time. Like I could put myself in uncomfortable situations in different positions.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand the whole business aspect of it, because it's media buying is one thing, but like running the agency is like a complete different thing.
Totally different.
Totally different.
Right.
So it really served as a good way of understanding and getting to learn and know what I like and what I didn't.
Sure.
It was great. That ended up closing about when the whole coronavirus
right.
that all closed down. So that agency closed. And at that point, again, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be out of a job again. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
So it was a little scary. We were a little worried. But that's basically what led to the growth of my agency. Because at that point, I was like, okay, I know enough. I've built up my confidence. I knew what we wanted to do. I knew the clients I wanted to work with. So it really just was the last push to really get my own agency going. And that's really what grew the rest of the story. From there, I started like a couple of those clients that were working at the Cardone Kern. They eventually called me back because I had been running their accounts for some time. They hadn't found a good agency, a good media buyer. They ended up reconnecting, and that kind of started my
agency.
My agency. And then from there, from the case studies, the results we were getting, we just kept getting more from there. And I'm not a huge agency. I've kept it as a boutique size agency for a reason. Like it's just, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. It's right. My goal is not to grow a massive team or anything like that. So it's gone great. It's gone better than what I ever imagined.
What kind of clients do you work with now? What's primarily the client base that you work with?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of clients, info products, high ticket. So most of them are coaches. They have some type of high ticket in the back end. We do a lot of challenges, a lot of virtual events. We're really good at running those. We've scaled them. I have a client who's scaled to like over 100 million with just challenges. So we're pretty good at that. I would say that's like the one thing that sets us apart from most other agencies, including bigger ones. we've gotten really good at running those challenges, virtual events.
Got it.
Uh,
Got it.
that's basically the core
Kind of
of
your
it.
thing.
Hmm.
So I want to back up and talk about a few things that you mentioned through the course of your career as you get into this, because we were talking before we pushed record, and we were kind of saying some things about, women in marketing, women in business, how challenging. You said a couple of things about the confidence piece and, putting yourself out there and feeling like you need to be perfect before you take the leap.
Yeah.
Like, if you would look back now at yourself, given what you've been doing, you have confidence, you can get yourself success. If somebody was at that point in their career right now where they were feeling unconfident or they weren't really sure if they should take the leap, what would you tell your previous self, or what would you tell a woman that's in that spot right now?
I would definitely say just get started with something. I feel
Yeah.
like I took a long time to just start because I kept
Yeah.
double guessing myself again. I assumed that I needed a marketing degree, a business degree to kind of start an agency to do things. So it was like getting through just tackling those beliefs that hold us
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Um, and just get started. Like that's really what it is. And get started with, even if it's something small, just get started.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the hardest thing. Like once you get started, even with the smallest thing, is easy to just take another baby step, like another
Yeah.
baby step. But until you actually start, like it can take you months, if not years, before you're like, okay, fine, I'll start now.
Well, I think we have a tendency to overthink everything too. As women, we have a tendency to, kind of put it out there and think about it 10 different ways. And then before you know it, it's been several months and we still haven't taken action. And I feel like that's a little bit of the difference between some of the online entrepreneurs that I see that are really super successful and some that I see that maybe aren't as successful or don't grow as fast, is that they're hesitant to take the leap fast
Yeah.
enough, right? And so sometimes I think we put those pressures on ourselves that we have to be perfect, we have to do this right, those types of things. And then we just think about it too much.
Yeah.
We spend our time spinning around just going, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, but not until I'm perfect.
Absolutely. And it's true. And that's why I say even if you start with something small, I think everyone's capacity is very different. And for
Sure.
me, for example, like growing too fast, like doing it would give me too much anxiety. And I know that.
Yeah.
So for me, I knew that and I was okay with just taking step by step.
Yeah.
But there's other people who are not like that, who are ready for that fast growth. And and sometimes it just doesn't happen because the same thing, we're just overthinking it.
Right.
Um, and one of the things I learned when I was at working at Cardone Current is like things were messy sometimes, like very messy, but they
Yeah.
took action quickly and they pivoted when they needed to, and or just stopped what wasn't working.
Mm,
Um, and I think that's something I still struggle with. Is something I'm always trying to work on and improving in terms of growing my own agency. We have to be okay with being uncomfortable sometimes to just allow that growth to happen.
yeah. Well, I struggle with that too sometimes, where I'm like, I just don't pivot fast enough, in that I overthink it too much, where I feel like sometimes if I just made a decision faster, if I just did it and didn't think so much about it, it would be fine. And you've been through a lot of risk, right? Like with your affiliate marketing stuff, having that much debt, having, something closed that you were planning on, doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's pretty risk taking, right? Like that's a lot of risk. So you clearly aren't risk adverse by any means, right?
I think that yes and no. I think when we took the risk, we were young enough and we knew
Yeah.
that, and we got into
Naive enough was maybe. Yeah.
and that too. Like we were like somewhat naive. We I was very clear on what we were doing. It was more so
Yeah.
like I knew what we wanted to do, what I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And I knew that if we got into in the hot waters, we were young enough to kind of recover.
Yeah.
Um, it was a very interesting
I'm
time.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, we take constant risk. I mean, I'm not afraid of taking risk, and I'm not
Yeah.
afraid. One thing I learned during that situation was like learning to invest in yourself. So like I'm not afraid of that. Like we're always buying courses, like consultations from people who know more than us, and I think that's a big thing that a lot of people are also scared of. I've learned
Mhm.
not to be scared of that because I've seen the growth that happens when you do put that investment in yourself. Um, More than anything, I think it's just the fear of,
Right.
it's more of the fear of like, what if I can't do it? Like those,
Yeah.
like when you start doubting yourself is really what stops you.
Right. Right. The self-doubt, the risk,
Yeah.
the fear, all the things, right? Limiting beliefs, all the things that we tell ourselves that are there.
Yeah.
But I think more times than not, we as women can push through a lot of that stuff and get to the other side pretty quick. But when you think about risk versus reward, and you think about kind of where you're at in your career right now with your agency, what do you think are some things that you might do differently when it comes to risk and reward? So now you've kind of grown through this, you're a little bit older, you're more matured in your business savvy, your online experience, things like that. What would be some of the things that you might do differently when it comes to risk versus reward experiences?
Yeah, I think it's understanding the industry more than anything.
Yeah.
There's a big industry. There's a lot, there's like one big umbrella with a tiny little pieces underneath it. I
Hmm.
think that was like the biggest risk that we took, like jumping into an industry that we had no idea what it was about, not understanding how big and all the components that came into it.
Yeah.
I think now when we like invest in opportunities, when we're looking for different coaches, um, programs, like there's always a purpose and a goal that comes with it. So we're a little bit more clear in terms of the intentions before we take the action.
Yeah.
And obviously doing our due diligence now, knowing there's a lot of scamminess happening
Yeah.
in the industry. So
Exactly.
we just do
Right.
a lot of our due diligence to understand what it is that we're getting into
Yeah.
before we actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you feel like the internet is like this big, huge world, right? But the marketing space is actually a bit smaller than you would think. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
lot of components to it, but there's a lot of the same players, right, in the
Yeah.
space that you hear of the most. And, through the course of I met this person through that, or I've taken their class, or I've done this, the world is not huge, but it's
Yeah.
definitely complex. And I think we talked about it, it's really heavily male dominated, right? And we
Yes.
know that the space is heavily, marketing in particular, is really heavily male dominated. When you work with mentors, because you said, you're investing in yourself, and, you invest in a lot of different people. Obviously, we can't always invest in female, leaders because they're not always there, right? Or at least visible to us in a lot of
Mhm.
spaces. They, kind of need to come to the forefront, right? And we're hopefully doing that with a lot of these conversations. But what do you sort of think about this male dominated space? I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here, but as women, it's really hard for us to find a mentor that can relate to where we're at, to find a coach that has had the same kids and experiences and being a mom and having kids grow up. And how do you kind of navigate through some of that stuff in this marketing space?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very male heavy dominated industry. When it comes to like looking for coaching people to like mentors, people to work with, what I really look at, it's their values. Like, do their values align with mine?
Mm,
I'm Christian. That's my, first and foremost, like to me,
mhm.
Jesus is everything, followed by my family, my kids. So that's,
Yeah.
I don't always, a coach I work with, it doesn't have to be Christian by any means. Like that's not
Right.
like something that is a must, but it's like their values. So that their values
Right.
need to align with mine.
Right.
Usually there's a lot of like the bro marketing, the cars, like that kind of stuff. That stuff doesn't speak to me. So working with like a coach like that, it just it wouldn't work for me. It's
Yeah.
we're values
Different.
are just very different.
Yeah.
So that is the first thing to me. Like, can I relate to them in some sort of way? Our Do our values align?
Yeah.
From there, usually like I always kind of push to chat with the actual person. Like I won't buy through any sales things,
Yeah.
sales, all that kind of stuff. If I feel a synergy, then we'll go for it. If not, then I've just said no, thank you.
Yeah.
So I always kind of look for that stuff.
And I
Um,
think this is really important as female buyers for high ticket and for coaching, because you just like kind of wrapped it all up into a nice package of I have to have like a synergy with them. I have to align with their values, and they have to be somebody that's like relatable. That's
yeah,
like every female's like like buying pattern, right? Is like, you have to have that. And I won't buy through a sales funnel sort of thing. Like, I want to talk to the person. There is that connection piece that has to happen. It has to be relatable. And you've got to feel that sort of, I don't know, just the connection and the values with someone versus, hey, there's the Lamborghini. Hey, they're making $1 million a day. Hey, they're doing, that stuff, for at least for me, and I know for a lot of other females, it's just not like, it just doesn't make sense for us.
Yeah. No,
Right.
100%, 100% I agree with that. And I think that's just, that's the important piece of it. Just finding good coaches that are, I don't like group coaching. I like one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
So if I can't do that, then I usually opt out of it.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm looking for that, building that relationship with someone that I can actually go to and trust.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
been like a big thing for me.
So you mentioned you have kids and that you're kind of keeping your agency in a boutique sort of line so that you can do this. How are you balancing motherhood and running an agency or running a business? It doesn't matter if it's an agency or otherwise, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people ask me. My kids are a little bit older now. So, I started my agency, my own experience 10 years ago. And so my kids have grown up with me being kind of in this online space, being home, all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, which has provided me with a lot of great things. But at the same time, I think it's even harder sometimes when you're here, particularly during COVID. It was like crazy
Oh,
when we're
that was
here,
very
the
good.
kids are here, everybody's here, like, how have you managed that? And any tips or advice that you have for business owners that are in the same spot?
Yeah, no, for sure. I would say it was very hard at first, kind of getting used to it and like routines and just balancing everything.
Yeah.
Um, what I did when they were younger, I used to work at nighttime a lot. So I've always been a night owl. So I would literally, and actually I still do that sometimes because it's easier for me to just work late.
Yeah.
I focus more. And again, that's just understanding your own patterns, your own strengths, weaknesses. But for me, I knew that, like, I knew that working later, I could focus more, I could do more rather than trying to wake up early. So what I do is my day is scheduled. I don't start anything before 10 o'clock. So before
Mhm.
10 o'clock, usually I sleep in because I sleep late. So I will sleep
Yeah.
in and take care of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Breakfast with the family. So always trying making sure I try to, most of the days I make my husband breakfast and then the
Yeah.
girls all of that good stuff. Um 10 o'clock until 3 p.m. is usually my work time. So that's when I'm usually, well, my girls are now in school, but even before, when one was in school, the other one was still home. Between 10 to 3, I used to basically work. My husband works from home as well. So he kind of would watch her so I can kind of get stuff as well.
Tag team.
And he
Yeah.
would work in between. Yeah. So just balancing that between each other. For us, that made it a little easier because, again, since he has the cleaning janitorial business, we've kept that from home as well. We don't have a big office. And we did
Mm,
that, could work between me and him, and we can both do what we need to do.
yeah. That's great.
After 3 p.m., I take a break. So from
Mhm.
3 to 8 p.m., I'm off hands. Like, I schedule all meetings, all everything before that. If all my clients, my team knows that if they need me, it has to be before 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Um, and then after I get them to bed, usually 8, 9, that's when I'll check back in, and I'll just work until like
Yeah.
only midnight because, again, I'm a night owl. That doesn't
Yeah.
bother.
Right.
And that works for our schedule. And I try to call it quits by then. But it's gotten, and it improves, right? Like, before, it used to be a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's gotten a little easier now. So I think it's just being okay with being flexible.
Yeah.
I think it's key. Because at the beginning, it used to be hard. I was hard on myself wanting to do it all.
Yeah.
And it was very stressful. And it's just, sometimes you have to be okay with, if you're at home, like, if you can't get to doing your bed the one morning, like, it's
Yeah.
okay. Like,
Right.
it's not the end
Right.
of the world. Sometimes I feel like, as women, we want to make it all work. And
Yeah.
that was, like, I'm coming to terms with knowing that sometimes that won't happen. It
Mhm.
took a little bit to get used to.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned a couple of things about routine and consistency that is really important. And I found that to also be kind of the benefit of working from home, I guess, if for nothing else, was a consistent routine. And for me, I'm fortunate enough, I have like an office area, right, where I can go to work sort of thing, and the door shuts and that kind of stuff. And it was really for me when things really started to get going was when I could get myself onto a regular schedule. So whatever that schedule is, it doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
9 to 5 schedule. For you, 8 to midnight works good. And then during the day, during certain times, same thing for me. I work at certain times and then I come back on, or I won't, or, things like that. And I think for a lot of us, it's not a bad thing to have an unusual schedule, but having some sort of schedule or some sort of
Right.
routine that your family can get into. I think a lot of women struggle. They get up, they go do laundry, they come back, they do something else, they go make dinner, then they come back, they try to do, a little bit in between. And that's where I found it's like super stressful for,
Very.
because you're trying to do this and then you come back to that. You do this, just setting out work times, even if it's just a couple hour chunks at a time, at least for me, has been so much better. So
100%. And that's another, it's, you bring up a good point, because that used to happen to me at the beginning. That's what I was kind of getting at, like, the doing your bed every day, or like, the
yeah,
dishes can get done in the morning. Like, because as women, we want to make sure our house is tidy, the dishes are taken care of, the laundry is done. But realistically, if you're working at the same time, if you're working from home, like, you have to be able to separate.
right.
It's two different things. I mean, if we were working at an office, that stuff would just get
Sit,
done,
right,
just sit
right,
there until you get
right,
back. So
right.
what has helped me is just, one, come to terms with it and be okay if it doesn't get done a certain day. But for example, laundry days, like, I have set days that I will
Yeah,
do laundry, and I know that if I can't get to it earlier, like, it will get done that day.
yep.
Um, Also, just again, for me, it's a little easier because my husband works from home, but I mean, that was also very hard to get used to. That's a different
I
story.
was gonna say
But
that's not easy.
no, that was a whole different story.
You're right.
But for us, like, we compromise. So for
Yeah,
example, if I made breakfast, he knows I have meetings after, he'll kind of take care of the dishes and put in the dishwasher. So just being
yeah,
able to work with your partner and just try to balance that in terms of, what can they take care of that kind of takes up the load off of you. And
right.
then vice versa. What's for him, breakfast is important. So I try to make him breakfast every morning if I
Yeah,
can. And,
yeah,
he understands, but it's we just balance that off of each other to try to take care of things.
yeah.
um that's really been helpful for me, because yeah, at the beginning it was rough, like, you try to be superwoman, and that's when you start like
Yeah.
burning out really quick.
Well, right. That's the burnout factor. And that's what I hear from so many women. It's like, how do you work from home? I just get so
Yeah.
burned out. I can't do it. And I'm like, well, what's your routine? What
Right.
is your consistent schedule? I'm same thing with me. I only do laundry on a certain day. And if
Yep.
you got dirty stuff or you got things that need, like, you can do it, or, we wait till the day we do laundry. Right. And that's just how it goes. And we have consistent routine on when we clean. We have a consistent, and that's come over time. Like, that is not something that I just instantly came up with when I started working from home. It has evolved, but for me, it's been something really important to get success and to be able to be productive in both my work and my family, as well as my house. You know what I mean? Because I just don't feel productive in any of those areas if I'm not consistent in a routine. Even though it may not get done, I still know, okay, this is laundry day, this is whatever day, this is, like, we've
Yep.
just kind of built it into our life. So my kids know, my husband knows, everybody is kind of on the
Right.
same page.
And I
So
think that's key, that everyone knows when things will get done.
yeah,
So they know that when they need something, like, they know when they can expect it by.
right,
Because as women, I think that becomes a problem when everyone needs things from us, right? Like your
right,
husband, kids. And when they don't know what to expect, it's like they're all pulling.
right,
But when we kind of said, okay, like, this day we'll, I'll take care of laundry this day, like, what you guys need to be here by this time, so you have it ready, like, they know.
yeah,
So then that takes
yeah,
off the pressure of like them complaining after, you didn't wash this. Like,
right,
I have this for, I need this for tomorrow.
yep,
And it goes, and it's with everything. So just, I think I think that's a big piece, just making sure that all of our needs are taken care of, but in a way that doesn't put extra strain on me necessarily
right,
on a basis.
right. Well, as we start to wrap up, this has been helpful. And I know so many women can relate to the stories that both of us have, and your story specifically. What advice would you give to a female entrepreneur in this space right now, whether they're new or been around for a while? What piece of advice do you have for anybody who's in this space?
The biggest thing is, like I said, just start with something and just do, even if it's one small thing every day, just do it. The second thing is really, it's hard, but really try to overcome like doubting yourself. Like I
Yeah.
struggle with it every day. I mean, working with the patch, for example, it
Yeah.
it was a year and a half of like a lot of growth, because he really helped me like break through a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that leads me to the second thing. Like, don't be afraid to find, like, reach out for help from others. Like, seek
Yes.
coaches. Like, even if it's a course, like if it's like a group, like try to find support somewhere, because it's not easy when you're doing it by yourself. And then it's
Yeah.
very hard to start. You start getting into like the comparing mode, the competition. Like
Yes.
that's when more self-doubt like builds up. So just really try to find support in some way or some way or some form. That would be the biggest things for me. I think that's the biggest thing that held me back for a long time, has been the self-doubt and like the trying to wait till it's perfect.
Yeah.
um so I think that would be like the biggest thing. Try to acknowledge that and understand that it happens to everyone, and
Mm,
everyone's different, but try to control it and beat it
for
in a
sure.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think that's great too. The support thing for me really did change a lot of how I thought about myself and how I was feeling more confident, but then also knowing that there's other people in the same space, like other people have self-doubt. Really? Oh, I didn't know that. But if you're in a
right.
group coaching situation or you're with a mentor, they even say like, "Hey, I've gone through it. I've done this," or "I understand." And I think sometimes the world of online can be a bit isolating because you are working from home and
Mhm.
you don't have that support system like you do at a 9 to 5. So finding people and places and courses and stuff where you can hang out, I think is super important. So that's great advice. Well, okay. So thank you so much for this. If people want to find out more about you, Diana, where can they go in social to find out about who you are and all of the work that you do in your agency?
So you guys can find me on Facebook. Facebook is the easiest way to kind of reach me.
Okay.
And Dana Burgos is what the name is there. Otherwise, my website is leadsupward.com. That should get you to a profit audit. But we basically do audits for anyone who we are going to work with
Awesome.
before taking them. So that's two places there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It has been awesome, so helpful. And if you have any questions for Diana, we have the box below. Drop those questions. We'll get them to her and get you the answers. And we may bring you back for some more questions. And thank you so much. This has been great talking to you.
Same. Thank you so much. Super happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.